Welcome to the regular meeting of the Arlington School Committee. I'm Len Carden, Vice Chair, and Dr. Kirstie Allison-Ampe, the Chair, is out not feeling well tonight. We wish her the best to feel better, and Mr. Thielman is also absent. Joining us tonight from the Arlington Education Association is President Jason Levy. I'd like to begin tonight with a moment of silence. This week, Arlington lost a key pillar of town government in Select Board member Kevin Greeley. Kevin was the longest-serving member of the Select Board, a tireless advocate for Arlington, town government, and the public schools, and a dear friend to many of us involved in town government. Please join me for a moment of silence in honor of Kevin Greeley. Thank you. We have new artwork in our room tonight from Audison Middle School. The Audison display board, each of the 4 Audison display boards are a mixture of the artwork made by the 7th and 8th grade artists. The displays include photographs of the 3-dimensional work that the Audison art students are working on this year, as well as mixed media prints made by the 7th grade artists. The small figures pictured in the photographs are the 8th grade superhero projects. Each 8th grader was asked to create a superhero based on a person that is important to them. Parents, siblings, friends, public figures, and even their pets were recreated in these 12-inch sculptures. The figures were built with wire, armature, newspaper, papier-mâché, paint, and recycled materials. The students gave their heroes superpowers to help people in the world. Their powers were based on the characteristics of the person they were inspired by. For example, one student wanted to honor Bethany Hamilton, a surfer who persevered in her passion for surfing even after losing her arm to a shark attack. Her superpowers allow her to watch over surfers and keep them safe in the ocean. Students created environments to depict where their heroes live or work and accessories to use in their superheroes' adventures. The other 3-dimensional works pictured are the 7th grade emotive sculptures. We explored how different emotions can be relayed using color, shapes, and gestural lines. We also discussed examples of both abstract and representational sculptures that successfully depicted feelings. Students explored sculptures made in a variety of styles and materials, and then made their own illustrating an emotion or a feeling. The armatures for these sculptures were built using cardboard, recycled materials, and papier-mâché. Students painted and embellished the sculptures, making intentional choices to create color, shape, and textures that best illustrated the emotion or feeling they were working to illustrate. 7th graders are also exploring printmaking and mixed media techniques this year. After looking at examples of master printmakers and contemporary artists' work to see the many possibilities of this medium, students experimented with monoprinting and mixed media techniques. Students were asked to plan a print inspired by an event, personal or global, that has impacted their life. Students then created a print to represent their chosen topic. The prints included at least 2 layers, first a monoprint layer and then a layer of their choice, including pen and ink, collage, and drawing mediums. Students represented the action, place, and mood of their event using color line, textures, and shapes. We challenged the students to be subtle with their use of imagery and asked them to show their ideas to the audience abstractly or symbolically, rather than spelling out the idea with obvious narrative representation. Great. Thank you to our teachers at Audison for all this great work. Public participation, I don't think we have any tonight.
No public.
All right.
Yes. Oh, she's right here, but we need to let her catch her breath a second.
Yes, that's fine. Or you can skip to.
I can begin
prefer.
with a little bit of the superintendent's report.
Sure. That sounds good.
Ms. Parris, why don't you let you catch your breath a second?
No, parking is
You're ahead of time.
difficult.
Yeah.
There's a jazz concert
It's community
tonight.
ed tonight. Yeah. Well, one thing that I know that Mr. Hayner and I want to bring up tonight is the event that's happening this Saturday
Yes.
in Boston, the Metco Bridging Two Communities.
Right.
And would you like to talk a little bit about that?
Real quick, we have, trying to get the families together, the long-term end of the purpose of this is have the communities, both communities, the Boston parents and the Arlington parents get to know each other so that when there are events, as the students get older, when they have evening events such as athletics and theater, they won't be taking the tea home at 8, 10, 11 o'clock at night and making connections here. But at the beginning, we're having families at the elementary level just get together socially. Our goal is twice a year. We've done this twice already, once in Boston and once in Arlington. This Saturday night is in Boston again, and the good and bad news at the same time is that we're really oversubscribed. The place we're having it is designed for about 70 people, and I think we got 130 people already booked up to go. It's really exciting.
Right.
And we have a local sponsor as of right now, Watertown Savings Bank. I'll tell you more about them, but they have supported us in the past financially to help us with this. So it's really getting together, and I apologize for not letting the committee know ahead of time, but I will definitely let you know when we have the one here in Arlington and give everybody a chance to attend. So, looking really forward to it. It's a good time. It's just social, no politics, no school, no parent conferences or anything like that. Just getting to know each other.
Great.
Before we go to Kate Paris, I want to just say that this year, because we had a slightly more additional medical funding, we've put that funding toward a late bus.
Wonderful.
And that has been up and running since October, I believe. So it's great. None of us want our students to be going home at 10 o'clock on the MBTA.
Absolutely.
All right. I get you.
Thank you.
Right.
All right, so we're going to meet our next new administrator, Kate Peretz. Do you want to do an introduction?
Yeah, just a little bit of introduction. At this point, it seems like Kate's been here a long time. But I want to, she came to us as an experienced principal from Franklin. And fortunately, the experience was put to a test right away. She walked into a building project, and she has not skipped a beat on this at all. It's hard enough to start a building project and go through it, but to come right in the middle of it and get to know everybody that's involved and keep it moving forward, she's done a wonderful job, and I want to thank her publicly for that. But also there was the playground on Lake Street and all of the little bit of delays that we had. But finally we have a really nice playground there for our students. But there's a lot of, when you have a building project, there are a lot of logistics. Where do you evacuate? Where do you go for recess? What about lunch? There's so many issues. But she's handled it beautifully, and we're very, very happy to have her here, and she is a great colleague already. So, please.
Thank you. And I did start in July, and it does seem like I've been here a while already, but not because of the amount of work, but just because right from the beginning, I think that Hardy in Arlington was an incredibly welcoming place, and I feel like I knew that before I even got there. I actually like to I like to tell people the story of when I went in for my interview the first day, and Rob was there and walked into Hardy in the library, and it had such a nice feel to it that right away I really felt at home. So I was so glad that the process worked out in my favor and brought me to Hardy, and the teachers and the students and the parents and all of the staff in Arlington Public Schools have been just so incredibly welcoming and supportive. And yes, certainly it was a lot to walk into with the building project, but I knew that was there, right? It had already started. And Kristen DeFrancisco was incredibly helpful with the transition. As soon as I was hired, we were having dinner together and, found our favorite booth at Not Your Average Joe's and had many, many conversations about what to expect. And she's still a great resource while she's going through, her own adventure at Gibbs. It's a very strong staff at Hardy, so I'm finding it very easy to transition into the staff. I think that we're very much people who are on the same wavelength about what we're thinking about education and what our goals are. So I feel that while Hardy is a school like any school in America that has, some challenges and things we need to work on, that the fact that the staff is so strong and that the community is so strong and that the parents are so committed to supporting the school makes my job feel, if not easy, then just not as hard as it could feel if we weren't all, kind of going along together in that same right direction. So it really has been lovely for me, and I feel like there's a lot of great work going on. Working on the school improvement plan has been a really fun and interesting thing to do with my ideals of really trying to have this be a very collaborative, as it's meant to be, effort, really working with teachers and our teacher leadership and with the whole staff, really talking to kids about the kinds of things that they want to see in Hardy and what they find dear in the school and important about the school, really talking to parents and making sure that their connection to that process is strong. And so I think that the kinds of goals that we've put into place are really powerful and will really help us keep energized and working, in really positive directions this year and many years to come. So I guess in a little bit, I'm curious about, I have many, many examples of the kinds of things that I could share with you about what we're doing, because I do feel like we hit the ground running. The building, because it had to be paid attention to, it was being built, but also just kind of the academic programs and social emotional things that we have going on that I'm already just really, really excited about. I had spent the past year before coming to Arlington working with William James College on a graduate certificate program in school culture and social emotional learning. And I'm finding that work is really helping me with this transition into this new place, and also connecting with the broader district on the Safe and Supportive Schools committee here in town, and a lot of grant writing actually we're doing that's helping to support some of our initiatives going forward. So I'm happy to spend time talking about those things in more detail, and I guess I'm just curious about what people would like to know about what's happening over at Hardy.
I'll start off. I'm fortunate, I get to see Kate every other week at the Permanent Town Building Committee.
We have fun at those meetings.
Yes, we do. I just want to say, new person, in a positive way, she's not shy. She's a strong advocate for the building and the school. And when they offer the opportunity, they'll say to her, do you have anything you want or anything you need? She lets them know. And she's really a good advocate for that community, and I'm really proud to have her with us.
Thank you.
I know that's not what you were looking for.
But it's nice to hear.
Ms. Seuss?
I also have glowing praise. So I was a Hardy family. My kids are in high school now, so I still have some roots in the community, and I've just heard glowing reports about your stewardship, and people are just so excited to have you there. And it's really, it sounds great.
Ms. Morgan?
I've heard, I actually have we're a Stratton family, but I have a lot of friends at Hardy, and the kind of people, the kind of friends I tend to have are the kind of people who really say it like it is, and they are so happy to have you there. And I was wondering if you could talk to us a little bit more about, because you had a pretty significant hiring plan that you probably implemented this summer, which I think probably has some pluses and some minuses, but I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about how that group is. I mean, I know because, if things aren't going well, parents know right away. So, but I know it's going great, but if you could tell us a little bit about how great it's going.
Sure, because it does, and it's so funny because it seems like, oh, that was so long ago that we did that, but it's true.
It's not actually not that long.
But really not that long ago, and I need to remind myself of that sometimes because we did have a really very significant shift in our staffing, in part because of the opening of Gibbs, so that there were people who went over to that building to support that building, but also because there was just some natural turnover that happens in schools. We had some leaves for family reasons. We had people who took on new professional responsibilities, some in Arlington, some in other districts. people who went back to school, and some of our support staff places. So a lot of that actually was really just the very natural turnover that schools have. It just happens that when you do that together with a move and opening a new building, that it seems like a lot. And so I knew right away that that was going to be something that we really needed to get on, because that hiring piece is, really one of the most important and significant things that a principal does. And so I'm very much a person who believes in a collaborative decision-making process. And so that was one of the things that really helped me to know what a strong community it was at Hardy, because right away in the spring, even before I started, I had reached out to Kristen and said, I really would like to be as a part of, I know I'm not technically there yet, but this is the staff that I'll be working with, so how would you feel about me coming in and starting doing some of that hiring? We had to hire classroom teachers and administrative assistant, were the first ones that we did together in the spring. I pulled together a committee of teachers to do that work with me, and we set aside the time and really said, okay, what is it we're looking for in these new classroom staff members and in our front office, and really went through quite a detailed process of doing that work together. And it turned out really well. We had 2 new classroom teachers that we hired who are doing incredibly well, really using the supports of the district, the mentoring program, and the support of their colleagues, and me and Peggy Satsoulis, the assistant principal and team chair at school, and have really done a great job transitioning in themselves. A new music teacher, teaching assistants, and of course, Mrs. Rabito, who is the face of our school now, is our new administrative assistant. And Petula, of course, was a big, kind of job to fill, presence to fill. So I think everybody misses those people, but we've created a new, a new set of people to rally together to support our kids and our families. And I think that the communication of who those people are was a big part of what families needed to hear also. And I really do believe that it's a major thing that's helping with all of this transition, and what feels like a lot of change is just making sure that that communication of what's happening is at the forefront in what we do. So every time there's a change or something that really would just be helpful for people to know, I make sure that there's information that goes home in ways that people can receive it. It's electronic, maybe it's something that needs to go in a backpack. Some days it's just a little blip of a school messenger that goes out to everyone that they might get as a text message. But I think what I'm hearing from people is that that's the thing that's keeping them feeling connected, and like they feel secure in the fact that things are in control. And one of those things at the very beginning of the year was putting little bios about those new staff members out in a newsletter. Like, here are all these new people, let's hear about who they are. Because there are a lot of really veteran teachers at Hardy especially, and so parents have an expectation, okay, I know who that person is because I've seen them for years and years, and when somebody's brand new, it can be, change can make you feel nervous, right? I don't know who these people are. And this principal's come in and she's, saying that, we've gone through this process, but I don't know this new principal either, so how do I know that this is a good fit? And I think those little details of really communicating why we've done the process of what we've done, who it is that's arrived on the scene, I think all of that helps just everyone to feel like that job has been done thoughtfully and carefully, and that supports their, feeling good about it. We want everybody to feel good about it, right? They're sending their most precious, family members off to school every day. We want them to be safe and cared for, and we want the families to know that that's so.
Thank you.
Well, there's
Sure,
been a lot of change. What is true at Hardy, though, the teams have remained pretty much at all the grade levels have been pretty constant.
Pretty much.
Which has been a
Yeah.
great anchor for the school.
Yeah. We have, and we do have a lot of veteran staff members, and people who've not just been there for, 3 or 4 years or 5 years, but, 15 years or more. And I think that spirit of collaboration, you know, even at grade levels where the teachers are on the newer side, I feel that the teachers really do support and mentor each other, whether it's a part of the official programming or not. You know, I often see and hear the newer teachers really feeling comfortable reaching out to teachers who have been around for a longer time, you know, asking questions and asking for support. We're really trying to build up more of that culture of visiting, that peer observation piece. So, you know, through the mentor program for new teachers, they have days where they do peer observations and they go see the mentor teachers, or the mentor teachers come to them that at those grade levels, but also just within the school day, we're finding more and more times that we can, you know, maybe I can cover a class so that a teacher can go see, you know, their colleague teach a particular lesson in reading or whatever it might be. Or just using our schedules in different ways so that we can make sure that there's that interaction within the classrooms, and those are other kinds of ways that we can really work together. But the veteran teachers are the ones who are able to kind of start that trend more than anything, you know, and help the newer teachers feel comfortable in doing that work, which is really nice.
In the research that Robert Marzano has done, he has found that the most dynamic schools are schools that actually have a really nice blend of people who are veteran, been teaching a long time, people who are sort of in the middle part of their career, and then new teachers.
Yeah.
And if you have, you know, it going either way, it has its different challenges. But Hardy does have that really nice blend.
We do
It's
have that.
great.
And I was talking to a teacher who's been at Hardy for a long time. Recently, she said to me, because there is a brand new first-year teacher at that grade level, she said, you know what, I can't believe how much I'm learning from him. And just how many wonderful ideas he's bringing to the table. And, you know, he comes to me and we have a conversation about a question he has, but then I end up leaving with new ideas for myself. And that's really when you know that that team is strong and functioning effectively at high levels.
Mr. Schlickman?
Konnichiwa. I'm sure you're enjoying the multicultural nature of the building. Probably our most linguistically diverse building in the town. I just wanted to give you a heads up. We have a sister city relationship with Nagaoka-kyo, Japan. We will be approaching the 35th anniversary next year. So,
I did not know that.
well,
Good
now
to
you
know.
do. Yeah.
Thank you.
And we will have an official delegation from Nagaoka-kyo here next year, and
How
we
exciting.
will send a official delegation the other direction.
Oh,
So you might want to have your passport ready.
yeah, okay, sounds good to me. Absolutely. It's definitely one of the things that drew me to Hardy specifically is the diverse nature of the community in many, many respects, but that cultural people from all over the world is a big part of that. And I think it's something that we want to highlight and that the school has done in the past, thinking about ways to highlight all the different ways that we are diverse. But you know, we do have a new, what people are calling the DIG, the Diversity and Inclusion Group, and so it's been a really vibrant and exciting start to that group at Hardy. People are really engaged in that work for all manner of reasons of why they've come to it, and there's not any one reason why people have brought themselves to that table, but I think some really good things are going to come from that in lots of ways. But yes, my bags can be packed at a moment's notice to go to Japan, no problem.
All right. Just one quick question. So I know Responsive Classroom was very big at Hardy. It's one of the lead schools for that. How are you translating that to the new staff? Are they going through the full formal training, or is it more of an informal?
At the moment, for our brand new staff members, one was formally trained over the summer, and the other will be trained next summer, and that just had to do with scheduling over the summer. But certainly that support is there. because it is so alive and well at Hardy, the responsive classroom approach, and the teachers really are working with each other to do some of that informal training for people who haven't had it. But it's even more than just the classroom teachers, because our music teacher had actually done the training before she came to us, which was lucky for us. But we also have a lot of support staff that is new, like the TAs that need that as well. And we actually did a training just the other day, so this is timely that you bring it up. Allison Elmer had approached me because Kathy had shared with her that I had done some training in the past, not as a responsive classroom trainer, but in other ways. I ran the mentor program as a teacher in Acton Boxborough, and was a co-coordinator of that program for new teachers, and so did a lot of training with them. And so also in things like protocol through the National School Reform faculty, using that work to do training. So I was very happy to do a training on responsive classroom because it's something that I believe in very strongly. I used it as a teacher for 17 years. I used it in my previous district in Franklin. And I really do see the impact that that has on student learning. I mean, when we really get the entire community using that approach, the impact on student achievement is, it's evidence-based. It's been proven that it has that really positive result on achievement results. And so we had this quick session the other day for TAs, and it really brought up a lot of interesting questions. And I think what happened is that, we went through the basics of what it is, so everybody would just know the lingo. And, in schools we use a lot of lingo. And it came up with a lot of ideas about how, our TAs are at very different places in their own careers. So it's, some of the people who've been working in schools that have used responsive classroom, for example, have had support within their buildings and did feel very comfortable in that. And so what they were looking for was something very different than the person who just got hired in October, for example. And so I think what we're going to do is maybe develop another session so that we can do that a little bit and really break it down into what is it that you really need to help support your work as an assistant within our schools. Because, our assistants are really spending a lot of time working with the kids, and so we want them to have the language and feel comfortable in the approaches that they're using too. Responsive classroom, but also all the other things that we're doing. So it's something that I think we really can rally together to do collectively, and that the principals definitely support that effort.
Great, thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, I just have one more question.
Okay.
Just wondering about the status of the other side of the playground, not the lake side, but the
Chandler Street?
Side, yes. So I know there's going to be a study and a sort of community involvement. Where are we with that?
And that's still kind of in the early stages. So I think the timeline of it is maybe a little behind what people had hoped it would be. But different companies were consulted with different designs, and there was one that is more of the focus now than others, and I can't quite remember the status of where that is officially, so I don't want to misspeak. But certainly the next piece is to get that community engagement in that process, like had happened with the Lake Street Playground. And I think that's really important, and that the Lake Street Playground is as successful as it is now, I think, because of all of that communication of what was needed. Because it's really, like, everybody loves that playground, and you can definitely see now the community coming to it. I mean, people really stay at school and are with each other, and we're talking about everyone. I think it's been a really nice kind of side effect of having such a great playground on the Lake Street side, is that our families who are our international families are staying and lingering at the playground, and then other families are purposefully kind of setting up times to make sure that the kids are meeting up to play on the structure, and then the families are meeting each other, and well after school is over, our kids are still playing together, and their families are standing by talking and laughing together, so it's nice. So we want to recreate that on the other side. We'll get there. It does need some attention, but it's fine. It's functioning now. We're using it. And when all of the fencing and all that construction stuff comes away, all of our blacktop area is going to come back too. And so that we'll have much more space, whereas up until now, it's felt very cramped. So I think that once that all opens up and we start to get the conversation going, people are going to start to be really excited about this next phase. So the construction's not done yet, but we have our eyes on the prize that, we'll get the new wing open, we'll get the blacktop area squared away, and then we'll focus on the Chandler Street playground side. So,
Great. Well, thank you very much for coming to see us.
thank you, it was
Welcome.
my pleasure.
Welcome to Arlington.
Thank you.
See you soon. You can go.
You can go, yes.
You can stay. But she has a little bit of a drive home.
All right, so next up on the agenda is the AHS building project. Unfortunately, both Jeff
know.
and Kirsty are not here, so.
My two friends on the building committee. But what I'm going to do is just give you an update of where we are right now and show you the slides from last night's forum. We had a very successful forum last night. Thank you for those that were able to be there. I think the count was over, about 250.
That's great.
It was a lot, there were a lot of people, had a lot of compliments from people saying that it was a very good forum, it was informative, and of course, people are anxious for more information as well as we go through this process. So how the forum was structured is that Jeff Thielman, who is the chair of the building committee, gave sort of an overview of where we are. I don't think I need to go through much of that with this committee, though I look that this presentation is also another opportunity for people in the community to see some of these some of these pictures and hear some more information. I will say that we have I think probably one of the best websites for a building project out there. There's so much information on it. And one of the things that I would encourage people to do is there's a survey that we're asking people to fill out. You can find it on the ahsbuilding.org website. So by mid-afternoon today, we'd already had almost close to 500 people already take the survey. So what we want to do is to gather the information by this Sunday night, 8 o'clock is when it closes, so we have a chance to, consolidate all information for the building committee meeting on Tuesday. It's just an opportunity for another way for people to give some feedback. But let me go over this and then mention that one more time before we're finished. So, as Jeff does in all of these forums, he gives an overview because there's still people who are coming in new to the process and just learning a little bit more about it as we go forward. One of the slides. All right, let's see if this is going to work, Karen. Yeah. Would you mind just turning that, I wonder if that's better for,
Yeah.
I don't know if it's-
Turning off the bank that's closest to the screen.
might help
yeah.
even for the TV, the bank closest to the screen. Thank you, Karen.
The other one, yeah.
In this diagram, what you can see is this is the whole campus of our current high school. And what those numbers are on there, for those that are looking, are, and by the way, this presentation is on the website, and you can go look at it. But you can see that the date at which each one of these buildings were added. The building we're currently in is the oldest, built in 1914, the Fusco building. But each one of them, as the population expanded and we needed to add more spaces, this was all sort of an add-on as we went along. Some of these pictures here are just, reminding people of why we're doing this, some of the conditions that exist in the high school right now. To that point, we gave a lot of tours last year, or I guess it was the year before that. We had a tour this fall for the town meeting members. We're going to have a tour of the high school on January 14th, and I expect to have more tours planned as we go through the winter and spring. I think this one up on the right was to emphasize how tiny the elevator is that we have. The single elevator, I might add, in the whole building. So there are, this is just showing, I'm doing it on this and I'm thinking it's going to happen up there. It's just showing some of the physical limitations of sight lines in buildings and very dated science labs. Somebody asked me, whispered next to me at the forum last night, what is that?
Yeah, what is that?
What is that? I'm not really sure what it is. It's a picture, I think it's in the physics lab. What it does today, I'm not sure. I don't even think we use it. So there is, some of the motivations for this project is the NEASC accreditation report in 2013 stating that while the high school was terrific, that the facilities are inadequate, and that we were on probation for facilities and had roughly 10 years to the next accreditation to do something about that. So it's outdated buildings, growing enrollment. Right now, the enrollment at the high school is 1,400. The design number is 1,755, and for some years, we may even exceed that number, most likely exceed that number, and are considering that in the process, the planning process now. And then we had a very positive, overwhelming vote in 2016 for the feasibility study schematic design phase, which is what we're still in. And this is what you can see sort of where we are in the progress. We had the feasibility study last year, which really sort of looks at the massing that goes on for the building. Where we are right now, let me just leave it here. Where we are right now is in the second one, which is schematic design. We will, at this point, once we finally decide on what the schematic, what the design will look like, we'll go through a costing process this winter and be submitting MSBA where we are in February. The next phase of documents need to be submitted at that point in order to get enough information about the cost of the project, the design of the project, in order to enter into a project agreement with MSBA. Then we will begin more development of the design, and then eventually the construction drawings. Right now, the plan will be to begin construction, and the earliest we probably could begin construction is the summer of 2020, so the following summer as soon as school gets out. What's important for people to know is that the educational vision for the high school, which was developed over several years with all the teachers, and last year it was a wider group of people from the community as well. We had 60 people last winter, beginning in December, spent 12 hours developing a vision for the educational plan for the high school. But as I said, this has been going on for a number of years, and I just want to mention that, and we've talked about this before, that the educational plan that was presented to the Massachusetts School Building Authority said it was probably one of the best educational plans, most thorough plans that they had seen. And I think that's a testament to the time we spent on it, the seriousness in which we took this, and because we wanted to make sure that the educational vision really drove this project. So going back up here, so some of the key features we wanted for this vision was the school building is welcoming and accessible. We wanted to have space that supports the social emotional health of our students. And a lot of that has to do with time to work together, green space, we had also a large central learning common, AKA the library, which is what we probably all called it when we were in high school. That allows for research and collaborative problem solving. It is probably the most used room in the building today, but it's not really adequate to all the students that we have here. We have to actually, during the course of the day, sort of limit the number of passes there just because it's not large enough to accommodate everybody. We wanted to have more space for hands-on experiences in science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, the STEM wing. More emphasis on project-based and personalized learning, which we've been engaged in for a number of years now in the district. Of course, we want up-to-date technology throughout the whole school, continue our outstanding art and music programs. We want to create the structure by which we have more interdisciplinary planning between departments. And I think that we talked about adjacencies in the high school last year, and that's what we're talking about, is having naturally aligned departments in closer proximity to each other so they can do that kind of collaborative work together. And in fact, in the STEM wing, there's sort of a mix of math and science classrooms. It's not just like that's the floor for math, that's the floor for science. But right now, math is in the back building downs, and science is in the front of the building. And, you know, you could go weeks not seeing anybody. And then, of course, we wanted more breakout spaces, collaborative spaces, and have the building be flexible and sustainable. And there we go. All right. So when we went through the process, the renovation option was ruled out. First of all, it was not going to provide the space we need for enrollment growth, and we looked at multiple options. I think last year there were more options than I think that many projects go through. And HMFH, I think we lost count of all the different ones. There was A, B, and option this. But we looked at a lot of possibilities, and after consideration, the committee decided on a new construction for some very practical reasons. One is the students have to go to school, and they have to have good space for that. And we don't really have the land around here for modular classrooms. It's certainly not sufficient for the need if you had a phased project in which you had to be out of the buildings. There was no other building to move into. So that was one issue. Another was that, you know, we can't really go through 2 years without a gym. Maybe 2 years without an auditorium, but that would be a stretch too. I mean, our town hall is really not adequate for the kind of performances that our students give, and it's just, educationally, it was not ideal. And so after looking at all of the possibilities, it really did come down to what makes the most sense educationally for students and what was the most cost effective. Anything we did with renovation addition cost more. And it costs more just because of the whole phasing is part of it. But with the new construction, what's going to happen in this is that in the foreground there, we're in the first 18 months of this, there's going to be the new construction of the two wings that are in the front, the STEM wing, STEM, and then, which is on the right, and then the auditorium and all of the music rooms, band, chorus, orchestra on the left. So once those are completed, then students will move into those spaces, and we'll move on to the next phase. But through the first 18 months to 2 years of the project, nothing's really going to change. Other than where the entrance for students come in the building, everything is going to be the same. So the high school will just go on as it is. When And throughout this whole project, we will always be able to have a gym. The gym will be one of the last phases of this, but it will be after the new gym is built. The current gym will be taken down. So in this particular next slide, it talks about some of what I was just mentioning, what were the considerations, why it was selected. And I think one of the things that came up last night quite a bit in the discussions at the forum was people want to really talk more about costs these days. And we're going to be doing that at the next forum. And certainly this is the focus of the building committee over the next month as we prepare for getting the design at a stage where it can go out to the cost estimators. Now, the other thing I want to mention about the design concept has to do with the green in front of the school. And actually, there might be a design. Well, it'll be in the next one.
Yeah.
Let's leave that comment until we get there. So, with this I'm just going to sort of jump ahead here because we've already talked about some of that. The sustainability update is that our target is net zero. That's a target. And, we move toward that in the most cost-effective ways. And if they're not, oh, thank you. Thank you. You have to remind me that.
No, no problem.
I got two going at the same time here, because I can't really read
Yes,
that.
that's too far away.
Too far away. These are reading, not distance. So that's the goal, net zero. What that means for people who hear that term, it means that the amount of energy that the school will need will be generated on site through photovoltaic cells, by reducing energy costs in terms of the way we heat, the way we shade. There'll be every aspect that we can think about to reduce energy costs is going to be part of this project. And that is a subcommittee of the building committee right now that's been spending a lot of time on this. We were selected for the Accelerate Performance Program, which is designed for institutions, schools, to achieve very low energy usage as we move toward that target of net zero. So they're going to provide, at no cost to us, technical assistance.
Oh, so just a question, this is the first I'm hearing about it. Is this a state program, a national
It's
program?
actually through Eversource. We've been
Okay.
working with them.
So, okay, but it's state funded?
I think it is state-funded, yes.
Eversource funded, okay.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
energy audits that they do.
It's
Okay,
there,
so-
it's in there.
Corporate or benevolent?
Corporate.
No, it's required, it's required.
Got it.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a requirement for the franchise, yeah.
Got it,
Yes.
okay, got it.
But, I think we all as a society want to reduce energy costs. And as we all read about, the difficulty in bringing hydroelectric power down, I think that's part of a goal, I think, in general for construction going forward. This is just a quick timeline. And as I already mentioned, some of that, and that is that the construction would begin, if all goes as planned, and that includes a successful override in June this coming year, the following summer. And we expect it roughly to take about 4 years in this whole phasing. Well, the construction would be complete, 4 years, 5 years now, yes.
4 years,
But
10
4
months.
years during the construction part, yeah.
Oh, it doesn't say 4 years, 10 months?
Well, it's supposed to be September 24, construction complete.
There's site work after that. Then there's 8 months of site work.
I
Then
see.
there's, right,
I see, okay.
okay.
Oh, right, but they could be in the building.
It's just the outside.
The outside, right, okay, got it.
So while the current estimate is $308 million, the actual cost for the high school, I believe, is $238 million, and yet because there are other costs, programs that we have right now, which total roughly $70 million. I think that number, as we, sharpen the pencil on this, is going to definitely come down. But we have programs in the high school which are not education related, such as having a controller office or facilities.
I think, just to go on with what you just said, if you go to the website, there's a cost matrix that details exactly what you're talking about.
Yes.
For people that want to see the breakdown of
Right.
the additional programs and things of that nature.
Right. Well, included in this 70 is all of the value engineer ads that we might want for education. And I was talking with Dr. Allison Ampe earlier today, and she would like to have that discussion with the school committee probably this next month. In fact, I was at a meeting this afternoon in which we're talking about exactly this, where we need to take a look at all of these programs, well, actually everything, but specifically the programs or the additives that would make up the $70 million, to take a look at that and see what programs need to remain, can be moved, what additions that we have in the budget for the high school, such as a larger auditorium, a larger gym, which would have a track, a walking track in it. You know, the school committee should have a full discussion of these, and I think tentatively we might want to plan for the 13th, because that's the night that we're going to have our secondary principals here for a budget discussion. So anyway, that's sort of a looking ahead, what we need to have.
The number that you just mentioned, 240 million is the basic high school plus additional programs and services that support the educational program. Is that what you were just talking about?
Yes.
So that's within the 240 million, not the 70 million, because I'm looking at the breakdown from the page right now. The 70 million has special education, which I think we should put that.
That's the
We shouldn't separate that, because that's not something we can control, is
The
special
preschool.
education.
It has the preschool in it.
It then said 12 million related, and then it gets into the ones that other people have been talking about, the administrative functions. I don't want us to be mixing apples and oranges in public, especially before we get it clear. Programs that can physically be moved, or programs we can make a decision with regard to not to continue in the new high school and things like that, that's one thing. But specific programs that are mandated by the government, and programs that it's, when we use the word additive, it sounds like it's an extra that we can absolutely live without. I think some of the programs you're talking about are important for the 21st century in our education programs.
I'm talking about education space that it goes beyond the guidelines by the MSBA. So for example, no matter how big your high school is or how small, you are limited to 750 seats in the auditorium. Currently, we have 900-ish, right around there. And so,
But what Mr. Hayner is saying is that's not part of the 70 million figure. That's a separate bucket of 22 million.
22 million.
Right.
Oh, it is.
It's a separate bucket.
Yes.
It's in the 240. That-
It's in
that's
the
point-
240, yes.
Okay, okay. I see.
I just don't want people
Yes,
thinking.
there's two
that we're-
buckets.
Yep.
that we're-
There's-
No, I'm
There's two
sorry if I
different
was
buckets, that's all.
confusing on that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Because we still need to have a discussion at this table about all of those educational spaces.
Yep.
Right. I want to make it clear, I'm very supportive of all these programs. I just don't want people to get a quick flash of something and all of a sudden say, well, you said you were going to cut
Right,
and you didn't cut,
Right.
when we did cut, say it. So we have to be, in the next 7 months, we have to be very clear that we're not misunderstood. So that the message that's there is pro-education, we're all on that same page on that.
Absolutely, and we will have more discussion about that.
Thank you.
And you're absolutely right. Having a town having a preschool, an integrated preschool program for special education is something that we need to do.
Absolutely.
Some high schools have it in their buildings, and some do not.
Right.
Some maybe spread it between a couple of buildings. There's different, towns do it differently. We have historically had the program here, and actually, if you remember, when we were looking at the Thompson program, we looked to consider having it actually there as an early childhood. but that, it ended up not being feasible to do that. So, in order for us to move forward, we will, as I said, have to have a debt exclusion override in June, but there's 2 votes that are necessary. One is a vote of town meeting to actually appropriate the money, and then, of course, the vote of the taxpayers to agree to have taxes raised. What we do know is that that MSBA, in partnership with us, will probably be contributing about $100 million to this project, which is a sizable amount of money in helping us move forward with this. Belmont High School just recently had an override vote, and it passed overwhelmingly. And that actually had a cost on the average of $1,800 per household. Ours is considerably less than that.
Just also want to make clear, although the state is going to be providing approximately $100 million, the town of Arlington still has to bond in that override for the full amount. It won't be like
We're not borrowing the full
240
amount.
million. We understand that. I just want the public to make sure that they understand that Arlington has to bond the whole thing. The state will support us going forward.
In recent years, one of the strengths of the new system is that it moves forward. You don't have to wait to the end of the project. The reimbursement
Right.
occurs
As we
as
go.
it occurs, right. Now, there were some questions that have been come through on emails, and last night, Mr. Thielman, talked about this. And one of the questions that has come up is, will traffic be impacted by the new design? And that's something that we are looking at. The TAC, which is our own advisory committee in town, as well as contractors that we're, subcontractors are looking at this. Clearly, even if we didn't have a new high school, our enrollment goes up, traffic goes up. Anybody who drops their child off here at school at 8 o'clock in the morning knows about the traffic in front of the school. What I think will happen with this project is that we're going to try to be looking for a longer queue line as possible. Well, I can show you that when we get to the other diagram. But yes, we are definitely looking at that. And will be more analysis about Mill Street as we move forward. What will happen to the Pierce practice field? That is the field that is behind Stop and Shop, and half of it is owned by the town, half of it by the school department. And the half that is the town property will be part of the new DPW remodeling. Right now, we're thinking that the half that is on the school property will be used for parking. But when I get to a design later, I'll show you that actually we're going to end up with more usable green space as a result of this project than we currently have. And having more fields in this town is really important. As the number of our students, number of children in this town grow, and the number of soccer teams and youth leagues, the pressure on our fields has been significant. And scheduling these fields is up to Parks and Rec, and I know that this has been a real challenge for them. This project is going to be able to take some pressure off of that, which we'll see in a second. So there's a question about the Historical Commission. What does it mean for this project? So the commission voted in October this year to add AHS to their inventory, and so the building committee will comply with the town process regarding historic structures, and we do not expect to see any construction delay because of this. So what happens if the June vote fails? Well, what that would mean is that we would potentially lose $90 to $100 million in state money to help us with this project. We would have 60 days after that to bring it back to the voters, but with the same design. There's no change. If that failed again, then we would probably be starting all over again. And we also have the accreditation coming up in 2023. All right. So right here for people who are watching right now, that is the website, ahsbuilding.org, where you can go look at the survey. And now I'm going to switch over to some of the designs that our architect presented last night.
Can I just ask one
Sure.
question before we go to the design
Absolutely.
part? I had a question about the 120 days thing, because I was trying to, so can you repeat what you just said? So that
I said, it's 120 days. Did I say 60?
No, you said 120. I was confused about, so what I had read was that what is it actually? Sorry, so it's 120 days from the vote
Yes,
that we could put it up again?
Yes.
If we had to?
yes.
Okay, because what I read from the MSBA was that the 120 days was that when the clock starts ticking once the district gets approved by the board. Like the MSBA approves the financials, like approves it, and then you have 120 days to have a vote on it, but you don't necessarily get to go twice. But I
Right,
don't know.
I think that's in the engine's not up there, but I think in Jeff's slide, he's calculating that. So he's calculating based on our schedule, we have 120 days. Our vote is actually likely to be about 60 days into that
Got
period.
it, okay.
So you're right.
And you get an extra,
But
Then we'll
then-
have another 60 days or so
again.
to do
To
another
do it
vote.
again.
if it fails,
You have 120 days to
Okay.
get the funding for the project,
total.
total.
Okay.
That's what you get. We
So-
would probably
So you
have,
can vote, you could theoretically vote, because it says here that,
60 days or so, yeah.
that in the event that the district fails to approve funding, no later than 10 days following the failed vote, they must submit to the MSBA, but maybe that's, you could do it twice, presumably, in that. I don't know. Anyway, it's confusing to me. I hope it's not a path that we
Yeah,
get
You
down.
Right.
you have the clock once the clock starts, you have 120 days. If it fails, you have 10 days to let the state know you blooped it, you're gonna try to do it again, but that's still within that 120 days to get a passed vote. That's all. Did I add to the confusion? I'm sorry.
yeah.
We're gonna pass it the first time.
Yes.
my hope is that as we go through this process as a community, that at the end, everyone is going to be very pleased with the design we have, feel educated about all that's been involved in the process, because it is the biggest project this town has seen ever, probably, and may not for many years after that. So it's really important for everybody to come together on this. It's very, very important.
Can I just say one more thing about that? I've thought about this project a lot over the last few years, and I feel like the place where we're at right now is we're picking between chocolate ice cream and vanilla ice cream, and like some people are upset that strawberry ice cream isn't an option anymore, and maybe we can't have pistachio, and some people would like to put rainbow sprinkles on the ice cream, and some people like caramel, and other people like chocolate sauce, and some people might want whipped cream, and so we're like figuring all that out. But ultimately, when we go to the voters, we're making a decision between either having ice cream or having no ice cream. Is really ultimately what is where we end up at the end of the day, right? Because we can, and the process has been really, available and has been very rigorous, and I think that it's been fantastic, and I'm still happy that we're within a process where we're picking our ice cream.
Right.
But, at the end of the day, the choice is going to be, are we going to have ice cream or are we not?
That's great analogy.
That's where it is. That's where it ends up.
Well, we want people to be in the process, and I think we're seeing more people
Absolutely.
come to the building meetings, which, by the way, is this coming Tuesday. I was delighted to see so many people there. There were a lot of great questions last night. And and comments as well, and all this was being taken in. But I think what's going to be really interesting is to see what people are saying in the survey, too, because in the survey, there's an opportunity for comments, and we will be putting all those together.
So I was in the balcony, and there were about 50 people up there. Yeah, I mean, it was really cool. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
How big the room was, how
and I
filled the
think
room was.
each time we're getting more and more people. I
excited,
think the one we
yeah.
have in January 14th, we'll have.
And I think, I mean, initially, when we saw the boxes versus what we have, there was a sort of a sadness. But, oh, there's so many cool things in this building.
There are
And
many
it's
cool things.
Really, really cool to see it.
We started to see, let me just show you some of the stuff. So anyway, right now you can see what the site would be with the new building. This is probably the part that everybody's getting most interested in, this particular slideshow. All right, so that's, in the front, the darker gray is the proposed school, and you can see how far away from Pierce Field. We're going to be able to have, as I said, more playing fields as a result of this. Well, and we're not losing really some of the front green either. We're going to have 80 feet of that back to the building, but we're going to pick up fields, which I think is a really important point. In fact, if you see now, the softball field is currently on the right, and it's going to be rotated over to the other side with right there will be a regulation baseball field. And one of the cool things that will be true, too, is that Summer Street, we're going to have a bike path. The bike path there is going to be connected to the high school grounds. I don't have a laser on this.
It's on the next slide, the second, 2 slides up.
Okay.
One more. Yeah.
There will be a pathway that comes down the right side of the campus. And in fact, you probably could sit on that and watch the baseball game. But the thing that you can see in this diagram here is that there is, look over at the baseball field, you see that sort of a shading of another rectangle? We want to put a field there, so that could be another playing field. And if we can do something about the parking lot, which is between the baseball and softball field, if we can find some additional parking, and we're looking at how that can happen, that, where the parking is, we can see the gray stripes, we would have another playing field right there. So this would be such an asset to the town. So we're trading some space right now that's not used for some very viable space for the town for athletes. Because one of the things that is in desperate need here, as I mentioned earlier, is in town, is to have more playing fields for students. All right, so this is going on. Now, the other part of this is that our architect, Lori Coles, mentioned last night that we now have the high school embedded in green. Now, if you think about the high school right now, we are embedded in concrete. In front of the school is a driveway, Schuler Court, which is one side. The back is all parking. And then, of course, there's on the CBS side, you can't go down there. Otherwise, you'll fall off a little cliff. But now with this, you're going to have green all around the school. And there'll be green in the front. There will be an amphitheater, which you're going to see in a second. On one side, you'll have green in the back, a green between the front. On the right-hand side, the front building is the STEM building, and then behind is humanities. And what looks like as a small rectangle off to the side, off the back humanities building, is where the preschool and district offices are.
You went over most of that.
I did. All right. All right. So that's the basic. See, now you can see one of the features of this that a lot of people, teachers in particular, well, a lot of people really like is this idea of a central spine, because everybody's got to see each other. You're going to be moving between there. You're going to see students, this is where the library will be, this cafeteria, some of our small group rooms will all be in the central spine of the building. This is one of the cut-throughs on this. As you can see, it's still in the formation, but the idea is that there will be multiple floors as well, because one of the concerns about a central spine is, well, how do you get, 1,800 students moving between the two buildings? But there's multiple floors in which that would happen. Here's another, did I miss one? No. There's another version of this. And one of the things that you can see is really just dramatically how different the back height of the building is as compared to the front. The humanities building is 5 stories, whereas the STEAM building is 4. And between the two buildings is going to be where there's going to be sort of an underground area where for loading dock, and on top of it will be the garden area. Here's another rendition of what one of areas of the central spine might be. That's also where the library media center is. Learning Commons is another word we use for it. One idea that our architects are thinking about is how can we use some of our historical elements. I'm not saying this is what's going to happen, it's just a concept. Right, still in the concept stages here. If you notice what this is the concrete design around the entrance to Fusco. And apparently it's in quite good shape. So it could literally be just taken off and put somewhere. It's going to be put somewhere. The question is where? This is just one idea. And this is the entrance to the auditorium off the central spine. Again, more slices of it. Here is the green roof. We're looking for other green roofs where they maybe even have some enviro gardens. I'm insisting on high fences. But nobody would be up there unless they were supervised. But yes, we'd have green roofs where students actually can be up there. This is one of the concepts that might happen in the cafeteria, where this is the forum stair. And on the side, the light gray is actually the stairs, but the brown are tiered areas where students could go sit. And so one of the things that we have right now is that during our lunches, there's really not a lot of places for students to go. And one of the goals of the cafeteria is to create more interesting places that students could have lunch. And sitting on a tiered system, other schools that have done it have found that students use it a lot. Here is another concept. This would be the Learning Commons, and one of the concepts, and may or may not happen in it, is that you have these columns, the light columns that go through all the floors, so that you bring light into the interior of the space. Because if you think about it, the central spine is going to be a very long building with 4 wings off of it. So it doesn't really have a lot of natural windows on the side just because the buildings are off of it.
There's an elementary school up in Concord that 70% of the lighting goes through from the roof all the way down to the basement, and it's natural lighting, and it's baffled. It's fascinating how it goes, and it's tremendous energy saver.
Yeah, it really can. From what I understand, it can really light up an area quite a lot. And then one idea in the Learning Commons is to have a balcony around. So again, having multiple different heights for different groups, or just sit by yourself if you wanted to study quietly. All right, so what might be some options for how the historic reuse? Again, concepts only. This was an idea of maybe using some of the columns in the front as a entrance into the outdoor amphitheater area, which is the area between the auditorium, music wing, and the gym. Entrances from the buildings themselves with a stage, that light brown area, the front is a stage, and then there would be a tiered area for seating. So this could be where you have productions, you could have concerts in the summer, open to the community, you could have movie nights. One thing that will be true on both of the courtyards is somehow we're going to have a gated system. It's just not going to be open at one end. There will be a gate. Not unlike our courtyard presently, the north, we have an area there, it's all concrete for the most part, but there is a gate that's locked during the day, actually it's locked most of the time, at the far end. Here's another idea for historical use, is to take some of the columns and have this be on either side of the stage. Another thing we were thinking about is an old hall. I don't know if you noticed the beautiful wood designs around the stage, how that can be used also. Here is a look at another way. This is the courtyard between the science on the left and the humanities on the right. So I should say STEM on the left, humanities on the right. And would you put columns for a long view at the end of that courtyard? It's an option. Again, this goes back to using the outside of the Fusco building to have an entrance into the auditorium area. All right, so we're looking now at the next phase of this, is the one that we've been all talking about, options in terms of exterior views. So all of the exterior views on this have some similarities to them. Just 1 second. One of the things that's true about the exterior views is that the layout of the building itself inside is not going to be affected by it very much. It's really about the exterior of the building. Any design will all have a central spine. The entrances will all be in the same location. The site plan will be exactly the same. Construction timeline and cost will be the same. And the auditorium will always be on the left. So here is the view of looking down on it. And again, you can see the trees, which are the trees right now, along the front lawn. And how much green space we're going to have in the back that's usable for our student athletes. So here is the first option. This has, you can see in the center there is like a triangle, looks like glass. That is the central spine, and on the right is the STEM building, and on the left is the auditorium. In this particular option, the auditorium is sort of buried behind it. What you see there in the way of windows is actually the corridor along the side of the auditorium. But essentially, the layout of the auditorium is not any different in this design as it is in any of the other ones. To get a better idea of this is taking the front of the column house now with the columns and the brickwork, and it's essentially in front of the glass central spine. Here is a cutaway on it, just to get a better idea of how the front relates to the spine behind it. And then we're going into B, okay? So in B, this is what it looks like. This is one that is a little bit different. Again, essentially it's just a facade look, though on the right, if you notice, it looks like there's areas coming out. Those are windows that come out that'll be deep enough for a small table and a couple chairs in them. on the left is your, again, is your auditorium. And the front does have columns, but very different than the last drawing. This one has these narrow columns, and it has the portico near the front of the school. That's option B. Again, this is what option B would look like. As you see, the central spine is essentially the same. Now, even with the central spine, there can be some changes in terms of where things are related to it. So, for example, that taller piece right there is the discourse lab, and that could be perhaps moved to another location, possibly. So here's option C. The building committee asked our architects to create a design that had no columns. And so in this one, there are no columns. It's a very different design, and you notice there is windows on both sides, and there's a different textures. It's just a concept because you can put whatever materials you would want, brick, masonry, a different kind of masonry, different colored bricks. Here is what the entrance would look like. There would be a very small overhang for the actual entrance and for rain. And here again, you can see that the central spine is essentially the same in this diagram.
Is there drop-off areas for these designs
Are the drop-off areas?
in the front?
No,
No.
Okay,
they're all in the back.
okay.
Well,
Well, no.
I mean, not that
That's
there
not
couldn't be.
drop-off.
My question
there's
was, am I
no,
missing them?
there's no driveway in the front like we have now. But where we have cars parked on Mass Ave now, no cars can park there because it's going to be the fire lane. So, can people drop off in the morning there? Yes. But there will be no parking there. So actually, in some ways, that's going to be a nice visual for the school. Cars will not obstruct the view of the school at all. You'll see the trees and the lawn and the school, but you're not going to see.
Are there going to be dedicated parking spots for school committee? Once every 2 weeks? I'm kidding. Maybe.
Maybe. Not in the front.
Not in front.
Not in front, no. So those are the designs. So we're asking people in the survey just to give us feedback about them, what they like, what they don't like, what their feel is about each one of them, any suggestions. And as I said, we're going to be going to the communications subcommittee will be collating that and presenting that information to the building committee. So we're at a very exciting stage, and I really hope people, share their thoughts, because we really do want to hear what people have to say.
Are they going to be presenting that next Tuesday, or is it still need more time?
The results?
The results, yeah.
Oh, yes, next Tuesday.
Tuesday, okay.
The survey closes at 8 p.m. on Sunday, and we'll probably send out a reminder to at least parents to please weigh in. And also, both of these presentations are there, and in the survey itself, they actually have some of the diagrams, so you're reminded by what some of the features are. Mm-hmm. So,
Any questions?
comments?
All right. Next is Superintendent's Report.
Very short. I did want to acknowledge our great fall season, and congratulations to all our athletes and all the teams they had a great season. But of particular note, we had our boys soccer team make the state finals, and they played Nauset, and it was a great game, but unfortunately, they came in second. But they were terrific. They had just a terrific season, and they had the league title, and not to mention the fact that they won. How it works after you get the league title, then there's you go through a north, you get the winner of the north, and then after you get the north, the west, east, and you have playoffs there. So you eventually whittle it down to 2 teams from one of the 4 regions, and our boys did a terrific job. But also congratulations to the boys cross country, because for the very first time they were league champions this year. The Thanksgiving game, as you know, was moved to Wednesday night. It was still windy then, but it would have been really windy and cold the next day. It was so cold. This was our last game with Arlington Catholic, and Arlington High School prevailed in that match. We also have some students, 2 students, who made all scholastic. So we have Francesco I'm gonna get my glasses. Valagusa, who earned Boston Herald all scholastic for soccer, and Ryan Osteen, right. The Boston Herald all scholastic for cross country. And so congratulations to both of those students. I want to congratulate the Performing Arts Department, and in particular, an actor we had for Macbeth. That was a terrific performance. I don't know how these students, with their very busy schedules, managed to memorize all the lines that they do. It's really quite remarkable. It was great production.
I have no idea how my son does all the activities he does.
But
Doesn't
it was,
sleep, I think.
your son did a terrific job. But the whole play was just wonderful. Very true to it. The setting was excellent. The staging, all of it was great. So we are very fortunate to have such a strong performing arts department, and they will be also performing their winter concert this coming Friday. Well, actually, it's 2 weeks. I'm sorry, it's 2 weeks, on the 14th of December at 7 p.m. And for people who have never come to a high school concert, even though you don't have children in the school, you should please come. You will find that it is just a wonderful experience. And that's it.
Great, thank you. Next up is the consent agenda. All items listed with an asterisk are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a member of the committee so requests, in which event the item will be considered in its normal sequence. Approval of warrant number 19089, total warrant amount 965,170.23, dated November 15th, 2018. Approval of minutes, school committee regular meeting, 11/15/2018.
Hold the school committee minutes, please.
Okay, so the school committee minutes are held. Can I have a motion for the other item?
So moved?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes, unanimous.
I mean, the minutes have, I was not present, it has facilities reporting no report. I can't report no report if I'm not here. It says Mr. Hayden reports no report.
Well, there was no report.
I understand. If you look at the minutes, it says Bill Hayner Chair, nothing to report. I'm
Maybe
splitting
change it
hairs.
to no report.
No report.
Yeah.
Thank you. Minor. Move to
Okay.
approve is amended.
Okay,
Do I have
second?
a second? Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Yes, unanimous. Okay, so it's not an agenda item, but it's listed here. The policy manual is in, the revised policy manual is in Novus. And I think the idea is at one of our December meetings,
Mr. Gilbert will come and we can query him and move this forward.
Do we know which one at this
We
point?
do not know at this point.
Okay.
Mr. Hayner?
On the committee, the 2 December meetings, usually we have lengthy budget discussions too, so I don't know whether,
Well,
Just
we have to do it in December because Gilbert is going to Sullivan.
I'm not, I guess I would ask my fellow members, let's take a look at between now and then, and if we have any specific questions, try to get them to him ahead of time.
Yeah, contact Mr. Gilbert before the meeting so that,
So if we can know when he's going to be there, it'd be helpful. Then we can
yeah,
plan
as
our-
soon as we have a confirmed appointment, I'm sure the chair will let us all know.
So Karen did print out one copy of the manual, and if it's easy, if it's going to be too difficult to review two different, the old one and the new one, and the list of the changes, certainly you can request a copy of that,
You can,
or borrow a
you
copy.
can come here and sit with the two versions.
whatever is easiest. So there's, obviously, it's very large. Okay. Subcommittee liaison reports. Budget, I have nothing to report. Community relations.
No, nothing. Actually, what about the,
And Mr. Hayner forgot it. He will deliver it at 11:15 at Cafe Nero.
okay,
Who's up
did
this
anyone
week?
show up?
Pardon me?
Did anyone show up at the previous one?
No. One person showed, and the issue I shared with the superintendent, we've already dealt, I assume
Okay.
we've dealt with.
I have to advertise it today. I will do that.
Who's on tap this, on Saturday?
Me and Kirsty and I.
Yeah.
Okay.
And 11:15, I will have the plaque there with your name and Kiersey's name on it.
Okay, I'll try to be there that early. Okay. Curriculum, instruction, assessment, Jeff is not here. Facilities,
Nothing to report at this time.
policies and procedures,
We talked about it.
legal services review.
Nothing to report at this time.
The building committee, we already covered. Gibbs committee, nothing. Any liaison reports, announcements, or future agenda items? All right.
Whoa.
Mr. Spiegel, are we doing executive session? Yes. Okay. So next is executive session. To conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with union and/or non-union personnel or contract negotiations with union and/or non-union in which, if held in an open meeting, may have a detrimental effect, AEA paraprofessional update, to conduct strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation in which, if held in an open meeting, may have a detrimental effect. Collective bargaining may also be conducted. Can I have a motion to go into executive session?
So move.
Second.
We do not have to come out for vote, is that correct? All right.
Aye.
Yes.
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 Yes. And we are
4 yeses and an aye, yeah.
adjourned in
No, we are in executive session.
executive, entering into executive session.
I voted yes.